Hello class! Welcome to Notes 2.4, Using a Common Denominator. Today we're going to be adding subtractions with different denominators. Last notes we practiced adding and subtracting fractions with the same denominator, which is pretty easy. This is where you make a lot of mistakes. You've actually been learning this since 3rd grade. However, we do have to cover it again because I still have so many students who are making mistakes. So, please write down our rule. Adding and subtracting fractions with different denominators. In order to do this, you multiply the fractions with a fraction equivalent to 1 to make a common denominator. So for example, a fraction equivalent to 1 could be 2 over 2, 3 over 3, 4 over 4, and so on. All of those will create a new fraction with common denominators. Once you do that, all you do is add or subtract just like you did on the last notes. Okay, let's take a look at a teacher example 1, adding fractions. Here I have 2/5 and 2/15. First thing I have to do is find the common denominator. There's a number of ways you can do that. Some of these you'll just be able to look at it and you'll be able to tell. For example, the smallest thing that both 5 and 15 go into is the number 15. That is your LCD. Now I need to change the first fraction so it has a denominator of 15. The second one already does, so I don't have to do anything. So I have 2/5. And I need to think about what do I multiply 5 by to get to 15? And of course that would be 3. So I need to multiply my numerator by the same thing. And 2 times 3 is 6. So now I have 6 over 15. And I simply add my numerators, 6 plus 2, and I end up with 8/15. That cannot be simplified, so that is my final answer. Okay, coming over to problem B. I have 3/4 and -1/3. Notice this is the part that's a little different than what you did in elementary school and in 6th grade is now those fractions have those negatives, so you have an extra step that you have to be careful of. Not only are you finding the LCD, making equivalent fractions and then adding, but you also want to watch out for when you have to secretly subtract and follow those rules with those negatives. Okay, so starting off we find our LCD between 3 and 4, which of course is 12. Then I need to change both these fractions so they have a common denominator. So 4 times 3 is 12. I need to do the same thing to the numerator. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. -1 times 4 is -4. Again, you want to watch out for that negative sign. If you forget that, it will change your answer completely, so be careful. Okay, lastly we add the fractions. 9 plus -4. I'm adding a positive and a negative, so I'm secretly subtracting. And 9 minus 4 is going to be 5. Will still be positive because 9 has the greater absolute value. And my final answer is 5/12. Okay, next teacher example. Now we're looking at with subtracting fractions. Again, another place where you tend to have more mistakes. First off here, my LCD between 8 and 12. One way I can do this is skip count by my larger denominator. 12 times 1 is 12. We know 8 doesn't go into 12 evenly. 12 times 2 is 24, and 8 does go into 24. So that is my LCD. Now I want to make equivalent fractions using that LCD. So for 8 times 3 is 24, so I also need to multiply the 5 times 3, and I'll get 15. 12 times 2 is 24. And 11 times 2 is 22. So now I have my new fractions, 15 over 24 and 22 over 24. Now, you want to be careful here. I'm subtracting 15 minus 22. Notice I can't subtract them normally, so I can skip change and make it 15 plus -22. Now I'm adding a positive and negative, which again, secretly subtracting, but now you can do it the other order because it's an addition problem. So you know your answer is going to end up being negative, and you've got 22 minus 15, which of course is going to be 7. That -22, because remember this is now negative, is has a greater absolute value, so you have a negative answer. It is simplified all the way, so there's nothing more to do there. Okay, so here we have whole number 5 minus 5/6. So I need to turn that whole number 5 into a fraction, which would be 5 over 1. And now it's easy to see my LCD is 6. Now I need to make equivalent fractions using the LCD. This fraction here already has an LCD, as a denominator of 6. 5 over 1 needs to be converted. So, of course, I multiply both of them by 6 and I end up with 30 over 6. Now both fractions have a denominator of 6. I can simply subtract the fractions. 30 minus 5 will give me 25. And of course, that's an improper fraction, 25 over 6. I can't leave it that way. So I divide 6 into 25. It goes in 4 times with 1 left over, 4 and 1/6. Okay, moving on, student practice. Go ahead, do these 4 problems. Start by finding that LCD, making equivalent fractions with common denominators, and then adding or subtracting depending. Pause your video, press play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, let's take a look at this first one here. Notice we've got 7 and 2 as our denominators, so my LCD is 14. I make my equivalent fractions, taking a look there, 4 over 14 and 7 over 14. Then I can add, I end up with 11/14. Nothing to simplify, so I'm finished there. Problem 2, my LCD is 61. This fraction already has an LCD of 61, so I only need to change this one here, and I end up with 49 over 61. I simply subtract. 49 minus 5 is 44. There is nothing to simplify, so I'm finished there. Problem number 3, my LCD here, of course, is 10. I need to change this into a new fraction with an LCD of 10. Now here I want to be careful. Remember, I'm adding a positive plus a negative. So I'm secretly subtracting. I end up with negative 5/10, which of course reduces to negative 1/2. Remember, if you forget that negative, it is completely wrong, so you want to be very careful. Okay, last problem here. I need to find my LCD. This one might have been a little tricky for you. It is in fact 36. Create new fractions with an LCD of 36. We have 33 over 36 here and 10 over 36 here. And of course we can do 33 minus 10 is 23 over 36. And that is your final answer. Okay, nice work. Hopefully you did all right. Make sure you copy down any mistakes that you made, correct them, and copy down the right answers. Okay, lastly here we have our quiz. 7/8 minus 1/4, negative 7/12 plus 4/15, and negative 3/8 minus 1. Go ahead and answer those carefully. Submit your answers on Schoology.